Welcome back to Off the Beaten Path, and this is my favorite part of the show is when we get to sample beer. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I'm at the beer stop in West Hazelton, and right now I'm with the owner. So Alan, tell me a little bit about the beer stop. When someone comes in here, what they expect. It's not your average beer store.
No, we have a lot of extra craft beers that most people have never even heard of. We specialize in those hard-to-find beers, and just new beers are coming in every week. The microbrew market is just exploding.
Why did you decide, like, what happened in your life that you were like, you know what, I'm done with, you know, the huge macro breweries. I want to get into these different microbreweries and check out what that's all about. How did you get into something like this?
Well, I've never been a whiskey drinker. I've never been a wine drinker. I always drank beer. When I was younger, you drank cheap beer because that's all you can afford. Now as you move on in life, hopefully, you know, you can treat yourself a little bit better. So about 8 years ago when we opened up the store, you couldn't get a lot of micro beers in town. They just weren't available. Nobody really wanted to get into them. So here you can buy singles. So you can just try one beer. You could buy 10 different beers, however you want to do it. More new beers, more new beers, more new beers later, and now we're up to about 200 different microbrews at any given time.
It's a pretty big selection.
It is, and you know, particularly, you know, when you get into some really these obscure beers, you know, you don't want to buy cases of them because some of them get up to $200-300 a case. Well, what if you don't like it?
That's right, then you're stuck.
Yes, this way you buy one bottle, and at least if you didn't like it, you didn't waste a lot of money.
Well, you know, bad beer is better than no beer, I guess.
Absolutely. Well, what we have here really is a selection of beers designed for people who are drinking Bud, Miller, Coors, and Yuengling out there. We're going to step you up into a better beer, a little bit higher alcohol, a little more heavy of a beer, but not getting into your super bitter tones, where as soon as you drink it, you're like, oh my God, that's bitter. That's further down the road. After you get used to beers for a while, then they all start tasting great. We're going to start with just a Stegmaier Pumpkin. Stegmaier is one of the oldest Pennsylvania beers. They came out with this one a few years ago. It actually tastes like my grandmother's pumpkin pie. It's crazy. I don't know how they did it. Now, just starting out again, this is a blonde. Blondes are going to be your least bitter style. This is from Rusty Rail, which is a new Pennsylvania brewery out there. We haven't had them for very long, but it's a very nice blonde. Easy drinking. Again, you're not going to get the bitterness, which is important for guys that are just starting to come into the beer market.
And that's something like after you get done cutting the grass, we'll say.
Absolutely.
You could kick back with something like that. You can't really kick back with an extra stout or something like that after cutting the grass in 90-degree weather. That would be perfect.
Right, and you don't want to cut back with a 9% IPA and chug it down. This one will go down smooth and you'll grab the next one. A little further up the flavor scale is Nimble Hills. Now we're going to have to figure out how to pronounce this one. Flickel Hugel. It's kind of what I'm going to go with.
Good enough.
This is a Munich-style lager. Instead of calling it by its name, if you just say Nimble Hills Lager, that'll be easy. Gets you a little bit more of a darker tone beer, but you're still within the light beers.
Now you're saying lager, so that would be similar to, like everyone knows around here, Yuengling lager.
Yuengling lager, absolutely, yes. This is getting into that tone as well. A little further up into the flavor scale, you get into browns, or doubles there as they're called in Belgium. They're called doubles because they're using double the malt in the recipe, which results in a thicker beer, a heavier beer, and also more alcohol in the beer as well. But this one for a brown is a really smooth beer. It's a great beer for guys just starting to get into darker beers. Next step up there is an amber. This is the Stout's Scarlet Lady. It's an amber, but it's also an ESB, an especially strong brew. So you're getting a little bit more alcohol tones in it, a little bit more of that alcohol flavor. But again, a beer that if you're a Bud Miller Coors drinker, you can still handle. You're not getting into that super bitter tones. And then we'll top off the styles with Weyerbacher's Mary Monk's Triple. So like this was a double, had double the amount of malts. This has triple the amount of malts. So you are getting a little bit more of that alcohol flavor, a little bit more of that burn, but it's just a great beer. Some people also compare it to champagne. You get kind of that champagne quality, that champagne bubbliness in it. And again, you're not in that bitter tones. We're completely staying away from the bitter tones for these 6 beers.
Now we went through all the beers. Let's take one, and I want you to show the audience how you should sample a beer. Because drinking a beer, it's not like pounding down beers at a kegger when we were in college. It's different when you sample a microbrew. You should really enjoy it. You should do it really similar to how you would sample a wine.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. When you're pouring your beers, you always want to tilt the glass and pour it in. You don't want to get a huge head on the beer and just dump it in. And this is the Stegmaier Pumpkin. I mean, you can just smell the cinnamon and clove in that.
And it's important to smell the bouquet of the beer. People
Absolutely.
laugh at me about that, but it's true.
You smell it. Most of your taste buds actually are a result of your smell as opposed to your taste. So as you're smelling the beer first, you're really kind of telling your mouth what to expect and what it's going to feel like and taste like.
I'm sorry, some of my friends laugh at me when I do that. I've been
okay,
doing that, swirling it around, doing
Absolutely.
that.
Get better friends.
Hear that? And the last thing we're going to try on the show today is what?
This is Lancaster's Double Chocolate Milk Stout. It's only available in tap, so if you want it, unfortunately, you're going to have to get it from the tap and use one of the growlers. If you don't know what growlers are, it's a 64-ounce bottle of beer that you bring in, fill it up, bring it home, you drink tap beer, it lasts for 2 to 3 days in your refrigerator, clean it out, then bring it back in and fill it up again.
Okay, so what exactly is this right here?
Okay, this is a double chocolate milk stout. So this is getting into your darkest, heavier beers, but because it's a milk stout, you're just a hair underneath the heaviest of the stouts. So it's a good stout to start in with if you've never had stouts before and you want to try one.
So this is like entry-level stout right here?
Absolutely.
Okay, well, let's try it out.
It tastes more creamy than it is stouty.
You can smell it too.
You can smell the chocolate tones in it.
That's a fantastic beer. Now this would be great with like a dessert, right?
Absolutely. A little piece of chocolate cake or any type of chocolate, and you'll be amazed at how much it pairs with that.
I like that. I like that. That's a great idea. Well, all these beers can be had here at the Beer Stop in West Hazelton. You come in to the Beer Stop in West Hazelton and pick up the Off the Beaten Path 6-pack. The first 6 beers that we talked about here
Absolutely.
will be in the 6-pack. And you mentioned the show, they'll give you a little break on it.
Absolutely.
The great beers of Pennsylvania can all be had here at the Beer Stop in West Hazelton. So get to the Beer Stop, get yourself some good beer. Coming up next on Off the Beaten Path, jam to some original music in Pennsylvania.